Oxidation of polyunsaturated fatty acids. Linoleate, is a polyunsaturated fatty acid which has 18 carbons in it and has cis delta 9 and cis delta 12 double bonds in it. So we are considering polyunsaturated fatty acid. So we have considered this linoleate. Linoleate is a polyunsaturated fatty acid which contains 18 carbons and it has these two double bonds, cis delta 9 and cis delta 12. Now when this linolenic acid enters the process of oxidation, then the first problem is this bond, cis beta gamma double bond. This is the first problem when linolenic acid enters the process of oxidation. So this cis beta gamma double bond, which was the first problem, is converted into trans alpha beta double bond, and this conversion is catalyzed by this enzyme anoyl coenzyme A isomerase. So this enzyme converts the cis form to trans form. Cis beta gamma double bond to trans alpha beta double bond. Now the second problem arises at the fifth round of beta oxidation. During fifth round of beta oxidation, there is a presence of double bond at an even numbered carbon atom, and because of this presence of double bond at even numbered carbon atom, there is formation of 2,4-dienoyl coenzyme A, and this 2,4-dienoyl coenzyme A is kind of poor substrate for enoyl coenzyme A hydratase. So the second problem is that there is formation of this 2,4-dienoyl coenzyme A, and the problem is that this 2,4-dienoyl coenzyme A is just a poor substrate for enoyl coenzyme A hydratase. Enoyl coenzyme A hydratase it just does not show its activity that much efficiently on 2,4-dienoyl coenzyme A. Now this problem is solved by this enzyme 2,4-dienoyl coenzyme A reductase. For this substrate there is a special enzyme 2,4-dienoyl coenzyme A reductase. So now this NADPH dependent 2,4-dienoyl coenzyme A reductase reduces the double bond and yields trans 3-enoyl coenzyme A. So the double bond is reduced by this enzyme and trans 3-enoyl coenzyme A is produced, and that is then isomerized into trans 2-enoyl coenzyme A by this enzyme 3,2-enoyl coenzyme A isomerase, and then this trans 2-enoyl coenzyme A continues in the beta oxidation pathway. So 2,4-dienoyl coenzyme A reductase reduces double bond, and there is formation of trans 3-enoyl coenzyme A, which is then converted to trans 2-enoyl coenzyme A, and this continues in the beta oxidation pathway, and this isomerization is catalyzed by 3,2-enoyl coenzyme A isomerase. So this is how the beta oxidation pathway of the polyunsaturated fatty acid looks like. You start with this polyunsaturated fatty acid, that is linoleoyl coenzyme A. So there are these two double bonds at between 13 carbon and 12 carbon there is a double bond, and between 9 and 10 carbon there is a double bond. Now this initially it is subjected to 3 cycles of beta oxidation. And 3 cycles of beta oxidation are there, and 1 cycle of beta oxidation takes out 2 carbon unit. So 3 cycle will take out 6 carbon unit, and that is the reason why from 18 carbon this molecule comes to 12 carbon after 3 cycles of beta oxidation. Okay, so this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these carbon units are removed by 3 cycles of beta oxidation, and then you get this molecule. Okay, now in this molecule here there is double bond, right? So like the process of beta oxidation cannot move further. Okay, so acyl coenzyme A isomerase acts on this molecule, and this is how the double bonds gets shifted from 4 to 3. It comes to 2 to 3 position. Okay, and then this is subjected to one cycle of beta oxidation, and this is removed. Okay, so from 12 carbon, 2 carbon units are removed to you, so you get 10 carbons. Okay, so this molecule now contains 10 carbons. Now there is again a double bond here, and it is subject to acyl coenzyme A dehydrogenase, and due to that there is double bond here and double bond here, and then this is subjected to 2,4-dienoyl coenzyme A reductase, and as you can see here there is double bond between 4 and 5, but here there is double bond between 4th carbon and 3rd carbon, and then this is subjected to 3,7-enoyl coenzyme A isomerase, and this molecule is obtained, and this molecule is then subjected to 4 cycles of beta oxidation, which results into acetyl coenzyme A. Okay, so from linolyl coenzyme A you finally get acetyl coenzyme A, and in the process the 2 carbon units in the form of acetyl coenzyme A are released by beta oxidation. Peroxisomal beta oxidation. Now in case of animals, this process of beta oxidation occur in both mitochondria as well as peroxisomes. But in case of plants and fungi, the process of beta oxidation only occur in peroxisomes. Okay, so that is how it is. In plants and fungi, beta oxidation is only occurring in peroxisomes, but in case of animals, the beta oxidation is occurring in both mitochondria as well as peroxisomes. Now this peroxisomal beta oxidation is similar, but it is not identical to the mitochondrial beta oxidation. Okay, the process of beta oxidation in animals is occurring in both peroxisomes as well as in mitochondria, but the process that is occurring in peroxisome is slightly different. It is similar, but it is not identical to the process that is occurring in the mitochondria. So the beta oxidation enzymes that are involved in peroxisome and mitochondria are different. Okay, peroxisomal beta oxidation enzyme is different that of mitochondrial beta oxidation enzyme. Okay, so even though the enzymes are different, but the chemical transformation of the fatty acid which is occurring in the peroxisome and mitochondria is the same. Okay, chemical transformation of the fatty acids occurring in peroxisome and mitochondria is just the same. Now this peroxisomal beta oxidation does not degrade the fatty acid completely. Okay, the peroxisomal beta oxidation is not quite able to degrade the fatty acid completely, but peroxisomal beta oxidation act as a chain shortening system. Okay, this peroxisomal beta oxidation act as the chain shortening system, and it catalyzes the limited number of beta oxidation cycles. Okay, so it does not completely degrade your fatty acid, but it acts as a chain shortening system. Okay, the chain of fatty acid is kind of becomes short once it is subjected to peroxisomal beta oxidation, and because of that, majority of long chain of fatty acids, that long chain fatty acid means those fatty acids which are made up of more than 20 carbons. Okay, so those kind of fatty acid are metabolized by beta oxidation first in peroxisomes, and once they are digested or metabolized or beta oxidized in peroxisome, then they are further metabolized in mitochondria. Okay, so the beta oxidation of long chain fatty acid first happens in peroxisomes, and whatever the leftover there is, that is being oxidized then into mitochondria. So first in peroxisome, then into mitochondria. Now, during peroxisomal beta oxidation, FADH2 and NADH are produced. Now, this FADH2 and NADH which are produced during peroxisomal beta oxidation are not coupled with the oxidative phosphorylation. Okay, this FADH2 and NADH are not coupled with oxidative phosphorylation. Now, during peroxisomal beta oxidation, the electrons from the FADH2 are not used for oxidative phosphorylation now. So where they go? Okay, so the electron from FADH2 are directly transferred to the oxygen, and then this oxygen get reduced into H2O2. So the electrons from the FADH2 go to oxygen, and then oxygen becomes H2O2, and this transfer of electrons from FADH2 to oxygen, this reaction is catalyzed by flavoprotein acyl coenzyme A oxidase. Okay, this enzyme is catalyzing this transfer of electrons from FADH2 to the oxygen. Now the thing is that this peroxisomal beta oxidation is not coupled with the oxidative phosphorylation, and that is the reason why there is no ATP synthesis. So there is no formation of ATP. So what do we do with the energy generated by peroxisomal beta oxidation? Okay, the energy generated by peroxisomal beta oxidation is not used for ATP synthesis, but then it generates heat. Okay, so because of this fact that this peroxisomal beta oxidation is not coupled with the oxidative phosphorylation, ATP synthesis does not take place, and that is the reason why there is generation of heat. But in case of mitochondrial beta oxidation, there is no generation of heat, there is generation of ATP. Why? Because the electrons from the FADH2 are transferred to oxygen via electron transport chain. Okay, electrons from the FADH2 goes into electron transport chain, and then from this electron transport chain, at the end, electrons are captured by oxygen. Okay, so electron does not go to oxygen directly. Okay, it goes via electron transport chain to the oxygen, and in this process there is ATP synthesis, and this is known as oxidative phosphorylation. That is, the electrons from the FADH2 are transported in the electron transport chain and then go to oxygen, and in the process there is ATP synthesis. That thing is known as oxidative phosphorylation, and that happens during mitochondrial beta oxidation of fatty acids. Now in the second oxidative step, there is formation of NADH. Okay, NADH is formed during the second oxidative step of the fatty acid in the peroxisome, and this NADH formed in the second oxidative step cannot be reoxidized in the peroxisome. In peroxisome, you cannot reoxidize this NADH which is formed. So that is the reason why this NADH, that is reducing equivalents, are exported to cytosol, and from cytosol this reducing equivalents enter the mitochondria. Okay, so NADH cannot be reoxidized into peroxisome. That is the reason why NADH goes into the cytosol, and from cytosol it enters the mitochondria. Now in mitochondria, the oxidation of NADH takes place, and this oxidation of NADH is coupled with oxidative phosphorylation. Okay, it means that oxidation of NADH will results in the formation of the ATPs. Now this plant glyoxysome Okay, this plant glyoxysome is a special type of peroxisome, and this plant glyoxysome carry out beta oxidation of fatty acids. Now, the beta oxidation of fatty acid in plant glyoxysomes result in the formation of acetyl coenzyme A. Okay, in plant glyoxysome, the fatty acid is converted into acetyl coenzyme A, which is then used for the succinate synthesis. And acetyl coenzyme A is converted into succinate via glyoxylate pathway. Okay, so in plant glyoxysome, the beta oxidation of fatty acid takes place in such a way that acetyl coenzyme A is formed, and the acetyl coenzyme A which is formed in plant glyoxysome is then converted into succinate. It is used for succinate synthesis, and this conversion takes place via glyoxylate pathway. Now let's read about alternative pathways for fatty acid oxidation. Alpha oxidation of fatty acid. Now this alpha oxidation is a minor pathway for fatty acid oxidation, and this alpha oxidation occurs in both mitochondria and peroxisomes. Okay, so in mitochondria and peroxisomes there is presence of this process, that is alpha oxidation, and it is just a minor pathway for fatty acid oxidation. Now in this case, during alpha oxidation, alpha carbon undergoes initial oxidation and not the beta carbon, and that is the reason why this process is known as alpha oxidation, because alpha carbon is undergoing the initial oxidation. Alpha oxidation is a mechanism for degradation of branched chain fatty acid. Okay, if you want to degrade the branched chain fatty acid, then you apply alpha oxidation mechanism to it. Now, the alpha oxidation of this phytanic acid, which is a branched 20 carbon fatty acid, is the most common example in animals. Okay, in animals, the alpha oxidation of this phytanic acid keep taking place, and this phytanic acid is a branched 20 carbon fatty acid. Now this phytanic acid is an oxidation product of phytol of chlorophyll. In chlorophyll you have phytol. Okay, if you oxidize it, then you will get phytanic acid. Now there is presence of methyl group at the third carbon of the phytanic acid. Okay, you take phytanic acid, look at its third carbon, you will find a methyl group. Now this methyl group is just prevents the beta oxidation from occurring. Okay, you cannot beta oxidized phytanic acid, and the reason for that is this methyl group which is present at the third carbon, and that is the reason why this phytanic acid is not subjected to beta oxidation, it is subjected to alpha oxidation. So during alpha oxidation, there is this terminal carboxyl group that is first removed. Okay, terminal carboxyl group is first removed during alpha oxidation of this phytanic acid. Now when you alpha oxidize this phytanic acid, pristanic acid is formed. Okay, pristanic acid is formed due to the alpha oxidation of this phytanic acid. Now this pristanic acid which is formed is then further degraded by beta oxidation. Okay, so you take phytanic acid, you alpha oxidize it, then you will get pristanic acid. Now that is subjected to beta oxidation, and that is how it is completely degraded. So this is how the phytanic acid alpha oxidation pathway looks like. Okay, you start with phytanic acid, then you subject it to phytanoyl coenzyme A synthesis, then you will get phytanoyl coenzyme A. Okay, OH is removed and coenzyme A is attached here, as you can see. Then it is subjected to phytanoyl coenzyme A hydroxylase, and due to that there is formation of OH group, as you can see here, and then that it is this 2-hydroxyphytanoyl coenzyme A is produced, and then it is this 2-hydroxyphytanoyl coenzyme A is subjected to 2-hydroxyphytanoyl coenzyme A lyase. Okay, and then due to this there is release for myl coenzyme A, which is then converted to formic acid, which is then converted to CO2. And this forms, because of this, there is formation of pristanal, okay, and this pristanal then is subjected to aldehyde dehydrogenase, and when it is subjected to aldehyde dehydrogenase, it produces pristanic acid in the end. Okay, so this is how the alpha oxidation pathway of phytanic acid looks like. Now, alpha oxidation pathway is defective in Refsum's disease. Okay, when this alpha oxidation pathway is defective, you call it Refsum's disease. And because of the fact that this alpha oxidation pathway is defective, the phytanic acid is not converted into a compound that can be degraded. Okay, phytanic acid is not converted into a compound that can be degraded, and that is what happens in Refsum's disease. Now, the symptoms of this metabolic disorder, that is Refsum's disease, are defective night visions, then tremors, then other neurological abnormalities. Okay, these are the these are the symptoms of this metabolic disorder, which is known as Refsum's disease, and that happens because of the defective alpha oxidation pathway. Okay, so these things are happening because this phytanic acid is just not converted into a compound that can be degraded. Now let's talk about the omega oxidation of fatty acid. Okay, let's read about it. Now, this omega oxidation of the fatty acid is a minor pathway which involves the oxidation of terminal carbon of normal fatty acid. Okay, so consider a normal fatty acid, consider its terminal carbon. That terminal carbon is oxidized during omega oxidation of fatty acid. Now this oxidation of terminal carbon of normal fatty acid leads to the synthesis of dicarboxylic acid. Okay, so there during omega oxidation there is synthesis of dicarboxylic acid. Now this omega oxidation is carried out in the endoplasmic reticulum of the eukaryotic cell. Okay, in eukaryotic cell you have endoplasmic reticulum. In that endoplasmic reticulum this omega oxidation occurs. Now this omega oxidation, this process is catalyzed by cytochrome P450. And what is this cytochrome P450 is? It is a monooxygenase that utilizes NADPH and O2. Okay, so a monooxygenase known as cytochrome P450 is catalyzing your omega oxidation process, which is occurring in the endoplasmic reticulum. So this is how your omega oxidation looks like. There is your fatty acid. Okay, it is subjected to hydroxylation, then oxidation, and that results into the formation of fatty dicarboxylic acid. Okay, now this hydroxylation is catalyzed by mixed function oxidase enzyme. Then oxidation is catalyzed by alcoholic dehydrogenase, and this is how the process looks like. Okay, let's have a comparison between fatty acid synthesis and fatty acid degradation. Okay, where it is synthesized at which sites and which sites it is degraded, then which subcellular sites are involved, then what are the oxidation or reduction cofactor involved during synthesis and degradation. Okay, let's see all of that. So the major tissue sites for fatty acid synthesis is primarily liver, and for the fatty acid degradation the tissue site is muscle and liver. Okay, so in muscle and liver degradation of fatty acid takes place, but the synthesis of fatty acid primarily takes place in the liver. Okay, now the synthesis of fatty acid takes place primarily in cytosol, and the degradation of fatty acid takes place in the mitochondria. Okay, in cytosol there is synthesis of your fatty acid, and in mitochondria there is breakdown or degradation of your fatty acid. Now the oxidation or reduction cofactor involved during the synthesis of the fatty acid is NADPH. NADPH is involved during the synthesis of fatty acid, and NADPH plus and FAD is involved during the degradation of fatty acid. So the 2-carbon donor during the synthesis of fatty acid is malonyl coenzyme A, and the 2-carbon product during the degradation of the fatty acid is acetyl coenzyme A. Okay, acetyl coenzyme A is the product of degradation, and malonyl coenzyme A is the donor during the synthesis of fatty acid. So the hormonal state which favors the synthesis of fatty acid is high insulin to glucagon ratio. That is, insulin is present in more amount as compared to glucagon, and this favors the synthesis of fatty acid. Whereas low insulin to glucagon ratio, in which case glucagon is the concentration of glucagon is higher as compared to insulin, in that case there is degradation of fatty acid. So high insulin is to glucagon ratio will favor the synthesis of fatty acid, whereas low insulin to glucagon ratio will favor the degradation of the fatty acid.